Welcome to the Lending Forward podcast, brought to you by Atlantic Bay Mortgage Group. This is your home for real discussions about the mortgage and housing industry. Our hosts are here bringing you firsthand accounts from people at the heart of the business. And we're chatting with professionals from all corners of the industry as they help cultivate transparency around the future of the industry we love. Together, we are lending forward all we know to you. Thanks for joining us for today's episode. Let's dive in.
We're back with another episode of Lending Forward, and I probably am joined by three of my favorite guys. I've got my co-host today, Bill. Hey, Bill. Woo-hoo. And then we've got Kyle Draper and Shane Kidwell, who I consider part of the Atlantic Bay family. But guys, welcome to the podcast.
I love it.
Thank you for having us.
There's very few women that say I'm in the top three, so I'll take that.
We're all gonna battle like, well, wait, who's number one, right? Yeah. Who gets the best Christmas gift?
I'm just glad to be in the top three. I'll take that as a win today.
Yeah. Well, I just,
trying to make everybody feel good,
Hey, Hannah, some housekeeping items though that I'm glad that we took care of before the show. What we did, just for our audience, we did flip a coin, and Kyle won, so he gets to wear his hat forward facing. So. Yep. Now everybody's comfortable and we can kind of roll forward.
Actually, I don't see Kyle with a forward-facing hat very often.
I know.
We're just trying to change it up for you guys.
He's probably marketing for some affiliate right now that he's got a brand agreement with, and you got to have it.
Halfway through, I'm going to put a t-shirt on with a QR code on it.
Speaking of marketing, and then we will get into the topic. Kyle, how many books do you have now?
We just released our 9th book. So we are cooking.
There's like a rainbow behind you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're having fun.
One's really cool though.
Have you started to sell? I heard that you were also kind of selling like a wallpaper product that kind of just has all of the books on it for those DIY.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Nice.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we sell everything. You name it, we can get it for you.
Yeah, available at a Home Depot or Lowe's near you.
That's right.
We could do the same thing. You know how the sports moms will get their kids all of their high school t-shirts or jerseys, and then they patch them all together like a quilt. We can
do
all of your book cover.
Are you gonna wear your books like a coat?
You should.
That'd be kind of like Joseph in the Technicolor Dream.
Of course, we had to go biblical here. I was waiting for that.
Yes.
Your Technicolor dream coat.
We're going to forget why we're on.
No one else is listening at this point. We've lost everyone.
With marketing, you're supposed to make the point within the first 3 seconds, and we blew that 10 times over already. So if anyone's still listening, we know they're committed. That's the one thing we know.
We're in recovery mode now.
I know. Let's get to it. So I brought you guys on. You guys do a lot for Atlantic Bay. You're helping our mortgage bankers with all kinds of different things. And I wanted to bring you guys on to talk about business planning. And I know business planning is I call it a boring topic because we have to do it every year. It's redundant. Bill can go down his rabbit hole with business planning. But I wanted to bring you guys on because I think you guys have a really cool outlook on business planning. And I wanted you guys to really, lend it forward to our mortgage bankers and our listeners of what they really should be focusing on in 2026. But before we do that, and we didn't even get to this because we got too busy talking about the books, but would y'all take a few seconds and just introduce yourselves in case, our listeners haven't heard you guys on here yet?
Kyle, you go first, brother.
Well, we collectively are the collective, Shane and I, and we come from very different backgrounds, which is what I think makes us dynamic at what we do. I am Kyle Draper. I'm a former pastor turned roofer, social media guy, now serial entrepreneur, average at best at most things. That's why I partner with other people to write all of our books, because I'm not smart enough to write most of them. But we absolutely love serving this industry and helping lenders see things differently, right? To realize that there are other lenses that you can choose to look through as you navigate business and rethink the way you've worked with realtor partners and buyers. And so It's exciting, and we love doing this. And we're as good as we are because of the man in the other black hoodie, Shane Kidwell.
You had to get Rethink in there at least once. That was really well done. I don't know how I
It's
can
just
follow that up.
branding. That's the word that should go. That's the word that it should be, you know?
You know, I love these conversations because the traditional switches that we're supposed to have in our brain, I wasn't ever given. They didn't develop in me. I'm a recovering firefighter, serial entrepreneur, got in the mortgage business at the end of 2009. I either have the best or the worst timing. I started my brokerage 2.5 years ago. So you can look at the calendar in our industry and go, wow, that guy maybe isn't that wise, or maybe I'm just ahead of things. But I love looking at things from different perspectives without the traditional lens of traditional financing. And that's my passion. I grew up with a dad who was an entrepreneur who started an airline. It's kind of a crazy claim to fame, but he started a small airline in Washington called Horizon Air. And so it's in my blood. And when I realized that I could show up my full, and I hate to use the term authentic self because that's so overused in an unauthentic way. But really what authenticity is when I show up online and then you see me in person, it's exactly the same. It takes zero effort. My brand takes no work because the brand is just who I am. And that's really what I like to really focus on, is looking at things from an unconventional lens, turning off the switches that keep us from doing things unique and fun, and keeping that compliant and helping everybody build legacy. And to me, building legacy in this business is building influence, typically online, digitally, so we can make more money. And then as we do that, we realize how much time is really the true commodity. And I really wanted them to be able to take and teach people how to leverage all of that to have more time to do the things they really love doing with the people they love most. And I get to do that with Kyle, which is fun because the guy, I don't know what kind of pastor he was, but a lot of his switches broke too. And so we have a lot of fun. And I'm excited for this conversation because you're right, Hannah. It's quote unquote business planning season. And yet, as Bill and I were discussing, I've been in the business 16 years. Bill's been in a few years more than that. We know that originators typically hate business planning, and they'll begrudgingly do it, or they'll begrudgingly say they're going to do it. And they might even be in the room with the notepad out, filling out the same Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, crap that everybody does. And again, there's a time and a place for that. And I'm a big fan of EOS, and there's, that definitely planning helps you make more money. But I think what's often under leveraged or not discussed enough and looked at is the fact that what we are is now, and again, business planning has changed in our industry. What we used to be highly skilled at that paid us the most money, operations, knowledge on products, things like that, is far less important today, not because it's far less important, but because there are so many tools that can outdo those things for us. It would be foolish for me to pack up all of my goods and wares in a box and walk those down the street when everyone's driving by me in trucks delivering their goods. Like, that would just be foolish. And so really our job now is business planning around digital marketing, branding, building influence online to drive revenue by really selling people into our funnel, our product sequence. And so that's really what we wanted to do today, is kind of turn off the switches of traditional business planning. And again, look through a funky lens that Kyle and I just by just natural design have, and have a conversation around how to build a business plan differently, where you're not a reactionary lender. Even if you're great and you have a tremendous referral partner network, you're still a reactionary seller. You wait for your referral partner to say, I have something for you to do, and then you scramble to do that thing. Some do it better than others. Some do it more often than others. But really, if we're looking at this kind of market cycle, looking at a sales funnel, top of funnel, where we would acquire leads and then nurture them down the funnel to where we either get a closed loan or a referral. Like, we're really having these people step into the middle of that. They're just dropping things in our lap, and typically at the worst possible time. I was telling you guys, I'm a licensed originator because my company needs me to be, but I really turned off the originator brain a couple years ago, and I refer them out to my team. Until last month, I made a stupid decision to take a deal. I have no idea why. I have no capacity. I just sold a company because I have no capacity. I so stupid, took a deal. And of course, the guy's quiet for 3 weeks. And what do you think happens when I plan a 6-day vacation with my 4-year-old to Southern California? The guy needs to make an offer, and now that opportunity is dropped in my lap mid-funnel. Now I'm in reactionary mode, and I'm instantly irritated, stressed, kind of pissed off, like kind of resenting the possibility of making money off this guy because I'm trying to figure out how to get to Legoland with my daughter, and this guy needs me to take 3 minutes to update a pre-approval letter. And so I think what I would really like to do is kind of like have this conversation around how do we build something, globally for our business that is far less reactionary. And then once we understand that, how do we design our week, our month, our year so that that can actually be something we can achieve? And when you step out of our industry, other people do this all the time. Like our industry is so far behind because we have to spend so much brain power making sure we're compliant, making sure that we don't screw up an income calc, that we don't have a lot of brain power left as an industry to think about acquiring eyeballs sooner in a non-reactive way. And I think that's really what originators want. Like if we had 100 in a room, we said, guys, would you like the business plan so you can have better nurtures with referral partners? Or would you like to create a system where you can actually get interactions, contacts, connections, introductions well before that step? I think everyone would say, yep, I would love to be able to control that lead flow. I would love to be able to be proactive about that. And I just think that that's not happening because we're not having enough conversations like this.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think that one of the things too, walking through the process of the different things that we're going to get to, that we're all excited to get to, but a lot of it also is that how do I go from where I'm at today and having that mindset of I'm going to do this, right? Like you said, all things of I don't want to do it. My managers make me do it. Now I'm going to trick myself into go out and buying the newest piece of technology that's supposedly going to organize all of my notes. So I've got that step done. But like, how do you all, you work with plenty of other companies other than Atlantic Bay. We appreciate the relationship, but we know that you're out there just helping our industry. How do we get people to that step one of seeing that like this is planning not just their business, but their life for 2026, 2026. So it all kind of meshes together. And then, they're at their best form, their most authentic self, right? And their best form of what they're looking to be. So how do we like start with like making sure that they're locked in on this is the why behind doing this?
Man, that could go so many directions. We could take a whole call on that. I mean,
Well, we don't have a whole call.
yeah.
You gotta condense it.
I think that if you haven't taken the time outside of business to understand what matters most to you in life, nothing's going to go well. And so I don't say that to dismiss it, but like my why is the 4-year-old on the other side of that wall, running up and down the stairs, listening to cartoons, right? And taking that little 4-year-old and keeping her alive and giving her joy, right? Like that's my why. So then if that's the big why, and this will go into how we design our organic growth business funnel. If that's the bottom of the funnel, that's the high ticket product I have in my life, my 4-year-old and the legacy building with her, then what are the mid funnel things, the big things, but not as big things I need to do? Well, I need to be making sure I'm home at a certain time. I need to be healthy so I don't, I'm around long enough to enjoy that. And then what are the little things? I get up at the same time every day with my daughter. So I think that when you understand the big thing, and to the point where if somebody asks me, what am I passionate about? I'm going to get a little emotional talking about the relationships I have, the things I want to do, because it's so close to me. They actually found, and I just learned this yesterday, there are more sensory nerves around your heart than there are your brain. So when people say, I feel it in my heart, that's not just a saying, that's scientific. And so if you aren't connected with that thing closest to your heart, good luck getting motivated to work on a pre-approval on a Saturday or deal with somebody that goes from a 700 FICO to a 540 because they're going through a divorce, right? It's hard to get motivated when you don't have clear purpose. And so I think that purpose starts by understanding your why. And then you have to get really clear on some very simple, like fun size candy bar goals to keep that momentum going and not get off track. You know, it might be every morning you take 10 minutes to just set your day up, looking at your calendar. So these are the simple things that you do every day that keep you from getting distracted, which gets in the way of the big things, right? Which gets in the way of you being proactive in your day. And so I think that those are the things that I look at in my life when I'm talking to people. And when I see somebody that might be where I was 8 or 9 years ago, lacked clarity, lacked purpose, reactionary, like adrenals were shot, making great money in the mortgage business, like more than I'd ever made, and yet completely unsatisfied. It's because I wasn't connected with that, like that big, big why in my life.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree on that.
And I think we talk a lot, about our why too. And I think there's a reason why people always talk about your why, but we do tend to not fully know or understand our why. But let's say that we do know our why. We now have our big thing. What's next? Because I'm not a mortgage banker, but if I was, like, I want to double my income next week or next year. Like, okay, I know my why. I've got, as Bill likes to say, 7 kids. I don't, I have 3, but, I have my why. I know what I want to do. I know all of that, but like, tactically, how do I build this business plan?
Can I walk y'all through an exercise that we've done before? I do it in my other businesses. And as a former pastor, I like, alliterations. So they're all S's. But I like the exercise of start, stop, and speed up. Because Shane and I talk to lenders all the time that, would go, oh, I'm a referral-based business. And when you start asking questions and you really start trying to figure out, like, where are these referrals coming from? They have no idea. They have no idea. And so we see all these lenders that, like, they go to 5 networking events every week, but they said that their priority was their 4-year-old. Yet they spend 5 to 7 Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, right? Like, out networking. And then you really look at their business and you go, oh, the Johnsons, where did the Johnsons come from? Oh, well, we go to church with them. Oh man, the Smiths, what about the Smiths? Oh, our kids play soccer together. And very quickly you go, I didn't hear any deals coming from those networking events that you go to almost every night. And they go, like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. I just assumed that. And so really stopping and going, okay, what do I need to stop doing? What do I need to consider to start doing? And then what have I dabbled in? Because Shane's great at this. Shane will identify what actually worked. And then that person goes, oh yeah, I barely do that. And it's like, well, what the heck? Let's speed that up in 2026. If it accidentally worked 3 times, let's get it to intentionally work 30.
Well, and so what Kyle also talked about is this whole referral partner thing. And what a lot of people will do is they'll hear Kyle say what he said, and they'll go, yeah, but I do know where my referrals come from. They come from my agents. But I would even challenge that argument, because the agents are, like, very, very, very unloyal to a specific lender. And that's actually not necessarily something I disagree with. Because if we look at how our spending habits when we purchase things from brands, like, where's our loyalty? Like, I like Nike if the shirt fits, but as soon as it no longer fits, I'm going to Under Armour or someone else, right? So, like, we can't hypocritically sit here and expect a loyalty that we also don't, give in our shopping behavior. So when he says that, you think, oh, I know where it's coming from, referral partners. I would ask a deeper question. What did you do for that referral partner to give you that lead? And then they don't know. So go one level deeper, and I'd say, well, and they go, I got 10 referral partners, and I get a lead or a deal from every one of those 10 every other month. And maybe you've even ranked them. And I have A, B's, and C's, or my old coach would call them like tuna fish and whales or something, right? And you're like, oh yeah, I got a lot of whales. And I'm like, well, but what actions are you doing? Because the reality is, again, if we're really moving from just relationship people who react to getting some business in ways that we really can't replicate, which is really the underlying problem and fear most lenders have. They can't, it's like owning a bakery and you make a cinnamon roll that goes viral, but you never wrote down the recipe. And I go, can you make that again? You sold that $2 cinnamon roll for $37. And they go, I don't actually know like what I put in it. I mean, it's a little bit of flour and a little bit of sugar. I'm like, no. You just made a $37, $2 cinnamon roll and you sold out and I can't replicate it. And I go, well, that's a really unwise way to build a business. And yet we do that every day. We kiss some realtor's butt and then we go, I think I got the lead because I kissed their butt. And I go, really? And then you come to find out when you break it down, it was probably 17 things done in a sequence by accident that happened to work. And it's like Darwinism, 800 things happen and boom, we had a fish that walked onto land and made a monkey. And it's like, you try to replicate that and it doesn't work. So again, I think this goes back to where I am just a firm believer that we need to understand the finish line and clearly define that. So if we're selling a product, what is the big outcome I need to get to make this worthwhile? And if there's two funnels, or there's two funnels, there's a referral partner funnel with an outcome, a big outcome, and a consumer funnel with a big outcome. This is business planning 101 for digital product marketers who make millions of dollars in a scalable, repeatable way. They figure out the recipe of the $37 cinnamon roll and they resell that as many times, and then they chop it up and sell it for even more. If that big, like at the end of the road for my consumer is they close a loan with me, if that's the outcome I want, then I got to work back from there. And I say, how do I get them to that point? Well, in just the biggest oversimplification possible, I've got to go like working backwards with a consumer. I got to go from funded to pre-approved and go, how did I get them pre-approved? And then I go from pre-approved to initial intake call. How did I get to the initial intake call? And then we go backwards from there. And so when you work with a coach, you work with a team like you guys have, what a good coach is going to do is be like, okay, time out, Kyle. How many people did you get to the intake call stage? I got 100. How many pre-approved? I got 7. Could we get that to 10? Could we get it to 20? Well, what about Hannah? She's getting 100 down to 50. What is she doing differently? And this is business planning in 2026 and beyond. We take variables and we remove them. We take metrics we can track and we track them. We take ingredients and we clarify them. And then when you do this well, and they do this in industries outside of mortgage far better than we do. I was sitting in a mastermind in Vancouver, Canada with my business coach, and she was showing me the screen of her ad spend and her lead magnets. And it wasn't like, I think I spent, a few dollars on ad spend. She goes, I spent $50,000 on this ad that drove $54,000 of revenue, but that created 3,700 new organic leads. And through those, I was able to market, and my cost to acquire that client was this. And I made revenue. It used to be 77 days. Now it's 21 days. That's what the professionals are doing. And it's not our fault. No one taught us this. Bill's a highly skilled professional in our industry, and yet no one probably taught Bill those skills because that's not the mortgage industry. That's the digital sales industry. But now with organic social media, with the ability to do ad spend, with the ability to scale your influence with technology, we have to think of the bottom of the funnel, getting the loan closed, mid-funnel, converting that person who is uncommitted to committed, because we're going to spend a lot of money now on credit reports, VOEs. Like the cost to move somebody from interested to funded is far more expensive today than it's ever been before, just from a dollars and cents of moving things along the path. So we've got to be very clear on that. But then the exciting thing is, okay, great. Like we kind of got that season figured out. Like we all know how to pre-approve somebody. We can TBD them, we can pre-qual them. We know those buckets. We know like our industry is really good and getting better at going from prospect to pre-approval from an operational, like LOS, POS, like pipeline perspective. What we're really poor at is top of funnel. And that's if we talked about the end of the business plan is I'm going to have 100 funded loans, I'm going to make $600,000, and that's going to be the lifestyle I will be able to provide for my family with 3 trips a year. That's traditional business planning. What I want to do is go, how do I get people into the top of my funnel? How do I get people that to know my cinnamon roll brand, to hear that it's the best cinnamon roll, to understand from others why $37 is a fair price to pay for a $2 cinnamon roll, and to be so excited about that I'm seeking it out online to go stand in line at the cinnamon roll factory. And that comes through the value we can create for our consumers, or the value we can create for our referral partners. And once you break it down that way, it gets really exciting, because now all you're trying to do is figure out more buckets of value to then communicate in a bunch of different ways through trial and error. And once you find one that works, where you go, I created a lead magnet where I posted online and I said, everybody's trying AI. Some people are actually making money on it. Here's how I do it. Comment 312 or AI, 2026, and I'll send you my information. That's a lead magnet, right? And people will criticize, well, that doesn't sound very personal. It's top of funnel. I'm not holding their hand at the closing table. It's top of funnel. I'm going to take 1,000 people or 10,000 and move them through that sequence to figure out, because what you're doing is you're just trying to, through automation, discern who actually aligns with your brand, your product. Again, like if you look at Amex, their advertisement is very different than Discovery. Like Discover cards and Amex branding is totally different client. Like my Amex is like $900 a year. Discovery card is free and you can transfer a balance with 0 interest APR for 12 months. Different client. They don't want the same person because they have a different expectation. And so our job is to figure out top of funnel value we can give to consumers, and then come up with a plan. And you guys have great integrated systems that can move them down the funnel, qualifying those that fit and removing or pushing out those that don't, so that I don't try to qualify somebody who wants to work with an online chop shop lender, because that's not me, right? Or somebody who wants me to work 7 days a week, because that's not me. And as we're qualifying these leads and nurturing those leads, it goes from a lead to a prospect. A little bit higher commitment. They trust us more. We have more authority. We have more opportunity to invest in them, and then we move them down the funnel. They go from a prospect to a pre-approval. Now they've done some work. They've given me their social security number. I get emails all the time about how big of a deal it is when somebody has their social out in the open, and yet they freely give them to us. We then run their credit. We get to see how good or bad their finances are. And then we move them from prospect to client. And as you're moving them down that, you're building authority and trust until you get to the end when you get paid. And that's like the end and the beginning, because then you get to put them in another funnel, or you get to create new value now that's different because now they've closed their loan. And so like that's the big picture. And then what you do when you're business planning that, you sit down with somebody who's got some clarity, a whiteboard and a pen, and you say, great, let's talk about what are the things you need to do on a Monday to create more engagement top of funnel. And your top of funnel might be BNI, right? It might be BNI. It might be you have an MSA with a Keller Williams. That's still top of funnel. And you're going to go in a room with a bunch of people. And the goal is to capture as many of their information as possible. I want, if there's a Keller Williams office with 100 agents, I want 100 people to give me their information. I'm not going to judge their lifestyle, their politics. That is not the place at top of funnel at the beginning of your business plan journey. I'm going to qualify them through questions and quizzes and value and different things and move them down the funnel. And by the end, I'll go from 100 Keller Williams agents to 2. And those people deeply know and trust me, my brand, they like me. And when I do that, those people don't call me at 1 o'clock on a Sunday with a referral because they know I'm volunteering at my church because I've qualified them. And the people at the top of funnel that would do that don't have my number. And so when you do that, yes, you can still work with referral partners. Yes, that can still be a primary driver in your business. But wouldn't it be great if it didn't have to be? Wouldn't it be great if you could leverage the digital billboards to get my brand in front of millions of people for free? Like somebody would do with a Super Bowl ad for $10 million. And all of those things are available today that weren't available 10 years ago.
Hey, Shane, real quick, I want to go back to just what Kyle was touching on as well. When, it's kind of the stop, the start, stop, speed up. If the whole funnel conversation that you're having, which, seems to make such simple sense, but a lot of times we just don't look at it that way. You really can take this to every layer of it, right? Because so going back to that agent, if I know that a lot of my business is coming from agents, shouldn't I also be asking them the questions of, well, how do they get their business? So then the more that we, that I know their business and their goals, and they know my business and my goals, we can see where those kind of synergies connect and build off of that. So if they've got, if there are strategies out there that they're doing, I'm a complement maybe to that. But at least at the very minimum, I can say like, hey, this is my top agent. They truly send me, 60% of my business. But then if you were to ask me like, well, where do they get their business from? Like, at least I can answer that question, right? It's not a shot in the dark.
Yeah. So you look at the people who have done this at the highest level. They were experts first in their own life, and then they duplicated that with others. Gary Vee, he was marketing his parents' wine shop. He became an excellent marketer, a viral marketer for wine. And now he's a marketer for others, teaching people how to market, leveraging other people's brands to market with his skills. You look at the best personal trainers that are selling digital training products. They're in shape, right? So when you build this for yourself, then you can sit down and go, I'm going to do this with my referral partners. And then what's even crazier is, yes, you'll know where their leads come from for you. You'll be able to help them with their efforts. You'll be able to build more influence, because if you're teaching them the things that you've demonstrated have worked for you, and again, if I'm going to tell them how to have a six-pack, I need to have a six-pack, right? Or otherwise it would be hypocritical and you'll build no influence with people that are just foolish. But then you can say, hey, Bill, listen, we've been referral partners for a long time, and I don't even want to call you that. We're friends. Those cigar nights we do are just like one of the highlights of my month. I've been really building out this business plan that is revolutionary for our industry, and I'm able to proactively start to really build contacts and leads top of funnel. And I'd love to do that with you. And then you can start doing that with them, because if you think we're not doing it, they're not either. Like we're all doing things by accident, not by intention. And so they put out a listing, and that's a lead funnel, right? It's something of potential value, but they don't know what they're doing with it. And so that's the challenge. And so if we step back and we say, what could we start doing? We need to start first by thinking of top of funnel. Like the great thing about our business is we know bottom of funnel. From a referral partner, I want to get a lead. From a client, I want to get a loan. So that's solved. We don't have to figure out what our next product is. That's it. That's our high ticket item. Mid funnel, we know. For a referral partner, I just want to have a one-on-one conversation with them with some frequency. If I do that, I have a great likelihood of getting leads. With a consumer, I need to get them in my ecosystem to trust me, which is typically represented by a pre-approval or some like financial activity with me. Top of funnel is where it gets fun, and this is new for people. It's all about how you can create more value and insert that into more people's lives with more consistency and frequency. And when we come up with ways of doing that, that's where we win. And so it's taking the tools your company provides, your MBS Highway list report subscriptions, your home bots, your all these different things, your mortgage calculators, your TBD approvals. Again, it's understanding what does the audience need, and there's different audiences. Somebody with a 621 FICO that spent a year and a half improving their credit would absolutely value a TBD approval. Would absolutely value that, because that's a certainty that they've never had in their financial life. I actually was using ChatGPT to do some research, and you know who came up when I was researching TBD approvals? Atlantic Bay. You have a website with a TBD approval. Crazy, right? I did this a month ago. I was building something out for my team, and I was just like comparing and contrasting opportunities, and yours came up. That's a lead magnet. That's some value for somebody at the top of the funnel in a specific like audience segment. Veterans, same thing. What do we know about them? They're moving all the time. They don't have a lot of time to understand this stuff. They need quick information that can then be like transferred to their spouse when they go out. Well, we can create guides on that. And then we go, well, what kind of guide do we create? It's a video guide. It's an audio guide. It's not a long text guide. The reality is when you give value, you build trust. And that's the number one thing breaking down today. There's a trust score that they create every year. It's by a group called Edelman. And we are at the lowest trust that we've ever been as a society. Attention is also at its lowest online. So people are not paying attention and not trusting people. Well, if you show up unfiltered, your brand is just who you are, and you're providing value, you break through those barriers. In fact, very easily. That's why when people say, should I make an AI picture of myself? I go, no, unless you're coaching on AI, that's foolish, because that doesn't drive higher trust. That lowers trust. What's Bill really look like? Like, does he really look that chiseled, or is that even is that real, or is that a filter?
This is the best I could do. This is all you're getting.
And so, like, again, it's about business planning, but we've got to, again, like I said, I look through things. Kyle looks through things from a different lens. Business planning is understanding the big goal, your high ticket product that makes you the money to build your legacy, and then going backwards from there to the top of the funnel, which is free value done through an authentic and trusting lens. So people are receptive to giving you some basic information. And then you nurture that information. You nurture that person like they're your only baby. And when you get 1,000 of them and you figure out the recipe for the $37 cinnamon roll, you duplicate it. You duplicate it. You make a robot that can mix it. Then you bring in AI and you can scale it. Then you bring in video and you can make it more authentic. You can build more trust. Then you partner with a company and you can get team members and you can do more of the fulfillment. And that's where it gets exciting.
You dropped in the AI, and now did you see like Hannah like lean in and her eyes got all big?
We did.
Go ahead, Hannah. Go for it.
No, I don't want to ask about AI because that'll get him going on a whole other tangent for like 2 hours. So we can't, because we're coming up on time. But I did want to ask, because I think business planning, one big component of business planning is holding yourself accountable and following through with the business plan. So I wanted to kind of pick y'all's brain on, how do we hold ourselves accountable? Do we get an accountability partner? I mean, how do we do this?
Kyle, what do you, I mean, I don't want to.
You run a literal mortgage team that you have to hold accountable every day. So I think you should answer it.
I think the average person doesn't hold themselves accountable. And I think that, but I also know that that's statistically proven. The reality is that we need other people in our life. We're not designed to be in a cave by ourselves. Like, we weren't designed that way. And there's studies done. There was a study done at a major university that found that if you have a plan and that's where you stop, you're like 10 to 20% likely of achieving that plan. If you have a plan, you share it with others, you have a 40 to 50% chance. If you have a plan, you share it with others, and you meet with someone regularly to develop and can keep that plan moving forward, it's over 90% likely you'll actually achieve that. So the data tells us that you have to be meeting with someone else regularly. Now, the caveat to that is, I'm not meeting with a Karen or I don't know, what's the male version of a Karen? Is it Bob? What do we have?
I've been hearing people make fun of Kyle's.
Yeah,
the same way.
Okay.
Fitting.
You can't have a Karen or a Kyle that when you meet with them, they want to talk about politics. They want to talk about what's going bad in their life. Like, if it's a boat anchor, don't sign up for that. So you would like it to be somebody who has done the thing you want to achieve well. Doesn't mean they haven't done it poorly first. Like, I made a lot of mistakes before I made good money in the right way with good balance. But you want to find somebody who's done the thing. And so that's why typically it's not free, because those people, again, what do we talk about? Build influence to make more money. And once you do that, you want to have more time. They value their time. But I'll tell you, I just cut a check for 5 figures to be in a room with people for the next year, because I value that. And so that's what I think people do to be holding themselves accountable, is being honest that you can't, you won't, and that you need somebody else to do it with you. And then you set a cadence to meet with. And the great thing is, you could find somebody who's maybe better at social media, if that's your primary driver, and you might be better at the thing that they're wanting to do better or focus on, and you can meet. You could get a small group, but you got to find people that are committed. And being committed is moving a mountain with a shovel. It's moving a mountain with your bare hands. And if you're not that committed, we know this, our industry is going through a purge, a refinement. And if you're not willing to get a little dirt under your fingernails, that's not somebody I want to spend time with.
Yeah, and you guys do a great job of this, and Kyle, I know that you probably have some mantra, slogan, or something out around it, but I do. Accountability has been used so much that I think there's almost that kind of fear for it, right? I don't want to. I know I shouldn't eat 10 chocolate chip cookies a day. So I don't want Hannah and Kyle every time I go and grab one, like, oh, you're grabbing another one of those, right? But if they're my development partner, like you said, or, and they're helping me see like, hey, you know what? Why don't you grab something else? Or, if they're always in front of you, the issue is let's put something else in front of you. But if there's people that are helping me develop and I'm thinking of it that way, then yeah, I want to make that phone call or I want to hear from them. But if it's like, oh, my accountability partner is calling me to tell me all the things that I'm doing wrong. When you all are coaching people, are you kind of shifting that way to get people to think of it more as like, this is a positive and should be more around the positive, kind of like you said, like you go to the beach, you don't follow the people, that are grabbing the anchors. You want the ones that are grabbing the floats. How do you all kind of mix that into, the different lenders that you're talking with around the country?
I I think it's gotten harsher over the years. Um, I have personally found that, you know, if I can't say something slightly critical to you and you just shut down, well then I'm moving on to the next person. And then I have to also look in the mirror. If I can't have Shane say something, critical of the way I spoke on stage, then I don't want to be better at that. And Shane at some point is going to move on from me as his business partner. And so I think it's just important to pretty much every day be looking in the mirror and asking myself, like, how did I do this week at receiving feedback from others? Because not every week's great, right? Like there's weeks that I'm good at it, and then there's weeks that I'm bad at it. And so I think we need to really understand that. And I also think, and this is kind of weird, but I think there's a book called The 5 Love Languages. And I think that, that book is written for relationship, but what is accountability? It's relationship. Right. And so I think we also need to understand, like, how do our people feel loved? How do our spouses feel loved? How does my business partner feel loved? And we need to go out of our way to help them in the way they feel it, not just the way that I want it. And that's a really big thing here. And I just think most people don't care. And so they just spout off and you receive it or you don't, not my problem. And so I think there's a lot of intentionality that can be put into play to help us navigate the waters of accountability.
I know we're short on time, so I'll end with this. And it's something that my business coach shared with me yesterday. I took Spanish in high school very poorly. But in Spanish, there is a verb called estar. And there's an alternative version of that is ser. And it is describing something that is either temporary or something that is permanent. It's like having a name tag that says, hello, I am. And the estar version is I am tired. That's a temporary description of yourself. Ser is I am tall, right? I am Caucasian. Those are permanent things. The problem is, and follow me on this, what we do to ourselves is we describe ourselves in the permanent verb for something that is temporary. And so we'll say, I'm not good at working with real estate agents, as though I'm a man and I am tall. And so then, well, if I'm a man and I'm tall and I want to be short, I'm going to just disengage and quit because that is a permanent thing I cannot change. And so the reality is what I'm looking at with people is, what do you describe yourself as to yourself that you believe is permanent that is actually temporary? Because that's typically the biggest block that people have. I can't tell you how many times, thousands, I'm not good at social media, as though I am a tall white male. And yet it is completely not true. And so what do they do then? They suck at social media. And so what I did, and again, what I'm learning in life is very little is permanent. So I said to Kyle 12 months ago, I need to flip my brand. I need to be better at these things. I can't outsource it. I need to be the expert in the room on these things. So I started going to rooms where I was the novice. In Canada at this 2-day mastermind, I was the dumbest guy in the room by far. 35 people. And I'm like, there's a professional copywriter from Denmark, a digital brand specialist from Sweden, people that I think she's in Dubai today, but last week was in Singapore, all digital marketers. And I'm going, so we have to change the name tag. I am going to be a good digital marketer. And I'm tall and I'm funny, right? So when we do that, that changes the ability for us to be receptive to accountability. And I think that's the number one thing holding people back from being able to thrive and consider true accountability.
I love that. And I am 100% stealing that because that change the name tag is good. We are on time. I knew this was going to happen. I told y'all we were only going to go for 20 minutes and here we are an hour in. But we are on the Lending Forward podcast. We can't let you guys leave without sharing a little bit of how you plan to lend it forward in 2026.
You know, I'll just brag on Shane because he won't do it to himself. You know, I think our lending forward moment for 2026 is gonna be this dichotomy of moving me from the stage to backstage and throwing Shane more on the stage. What he is doing with AI, and maybe we're previewing a future episode. I've never seen anything or anyone do what he's doing with AI in the mortgage space. It does not exist. Does it exist other places? Yes. But there's no one in our industry doing what he is doing for mortgage, the way he's leveraging AI. And so I think what we're going to see is in 2026, we're going to serve the heck out of a lot of people by helping them get out of their own way, by changing the name on their name tag and helping them realize that there are more efficient ways to do what you've done for the last 20 years to free you up to go do what you were born to do. And I'm excited to be sitting next to him to get to watch it happen firsthand.
Well, just as we're refining and changing our name tags, I just want to do that for more people. Like I suffered in mortgage for over a decade with great checking accounts and terrible name tags. And that's what most originators, most real estate agents, most entrepreneurs do. There's a better way. There's a different name you can put on your name tag. And the great thing about it is one day it can be, I'm going to be a multi-company CEO that delivers a balanced life for my family. And then later that can change. I own no businesses and I'm getting really good at paddleboarding in Southern California. And then that can change. I'm a pastor in Uganda, whatever. I think that's what's fun that people don't realize is the hello, my name tag can be torn off and can be rewritten. So my job in 2026 is to help more people do that as quickly as possible so they can get to where they want to be.
Fantastic.
Let's go.
Wrap us up, Bill. We got to go.
That's right. Hannah, hurry up and get that copyrighted and it'll be a wrap.
Thank you guys. We really do appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate y'all.
Thanks again for tuning into today's episode of the Lending Forward podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our channel, follow us on Instagram @LendingForward, on YouTube and LinkedIn. Catch us every other Thursday with a brand new episode, and go lend something forward today. Atlantic Bay Mortgage Group, LLC, NMLS number 72043, NMLSconsumeraccess.org is an equal opportunity lender and employer. Located at 600 Lynn Haven Parkway, Suite 100, Virginia Beach, Virginia, 23452.